3,000 feet beneath the surface, the ocean runs out of light. No sun, no moon, no horizon, just black water in every direction, falling away for miles. And then, in all that nothing, a single point of light, pale blue-green, drifting in the dark like a fallen star. If you live down here, that light means one thing, and one thing only: food. So you turn toward it, you always turn toward it. Because in the deep, light is life, and life is almost never this easy to find. But this light is not food, this light is bait. Behind it waits a mouth lined with teeth as clear as glass, and a body so black you will never see it coming. This is the anglerfish, the most famous monster of the deep sea. And nearly everything that makes it terrifying is something you have never actually been told. Nothing about the anglerfish makes sense until you see where it has to live. The deep ocean is the largest living space on Earth. Not the largest in the sea, the largest anywhere. There is more room for life in that cold black water than in every forest, desert, and grassland on the surface combined. And almost no human eye has ever looked into it. One fact rules that entire world: there is no light. Sunlight cannot reach the bottom. By 600 feet down, the ocean has already absorbed most of it. By 3,000, the last faint trace is gone, and everything beneath exists in permanent night. No sunrise, no color, no shadows, only cold and pressure, and a blackness so complete that eyes, in the way we normally use the word, begin to lose their purpose. This is the world of the deep-sea anglerfish. Most of them live between roughly 1,000 and 13,000 feet down, and a few drift even lower than that, 2 or 3 miles beneath the waves into the true abyss. There are more than 160 kinds of them across 11 different families, and they are far less rare than their monstrous reputation suggests. By sheer head count, they rank among the more common predators of the deep. We just almost never see them because we almost never go where they are. Every animal living in that darkness faces the same 2 impossible problems. How do you find food in a place that holds so little of it? And how do you avoid being eaten when you cannot see what is hunting you? The anglerfish answers both with a single idea, one that no animal on the surface would ever need. It uses light in a world that has none as a weapon. Here, hunger is the force that shapes everything. On the surface, the sun feeds the world. Tiny drifting plants turn sunlight into food, and everything else either eats them or eats whatever ate them first. None of that happens in the deep. There is no sun to begin the chain, so almost nothing grows. The only food is what falls from far above, a slow and constant drizzle of dead things and waste that scientists call marine snow, plus the occasional animal that swims down into the dark and never finds its way back up. That makes the deep a desert. A freezing, lightless desert where a real meal might be days or weeks away and a predator can starve quietly for a very long time waiting for one. In a place like that, you cannot hunt the way a shark hunts. You cannot chase. Chasing burns energy you cannot spare, across distances where you will most likely find nothing at the end of it anyway. The math does not work. So the anglerfish does the opposite of chasing. It barely moves at all. It hangs in the black water, almost perfectly still, and lets the food come to it. And when something finally does arrive, it takes no chances. Its jaws are huge, hinged to gape, wider than its own body, and its stomach can stretch to hold prey larger than the fish itself. In one case, researchers found a female barely 4 inches long that had choked to death, trying to swallow a fish more than 3 times her length. She simply could not let go. When you never know how long until the next meal, you take whatever drifts within reach, whatever the size, whatever the danger. But to make the food come to you in total darkness, you need a way to call it in. You need a light. The anglerfish is named for the way it fishes. Rising from the top of its head is a long, thin spine, a single fin ray that has crept forward over millions of years until it stands above the mouth like a fishing rod. At the very tip of that rod sits the most valuable thing the fish owns, a small glowing lure. In the dark, the anglerfish holds that light out in front of its own face and makes it dance. Tiny muscles let it twitch and sway and pulse, so the glow moves through the water exactly like a small living creature. To anything hungry passing by, it reads as a meal, a little glowing promise of life in all that emptiness, and life, in the deep, is always worth swimming toward. So the prey draws closer. It follows the light in, nearer and nearer, right up to the glow, right up to the spot where the rod meets the head. That is the trap. The lure does more than attract the prey, it aims it. It steers the victim into the exact place where those enormous jaws can reach, and the anglerfish does not so much bite as inhale. The mouth snaps open, the water around it rushes in, and the prey is swept inside in a fraction of a second before it can begin to grasp what the light really was. The teeth point inward, long and thin and glassy, so that anything entering that mouth slides in without resistance and can never climb back out. The light brings you in. The teeth keep you there. A predator wearing bait is one of the oldest tricks in nature. But hidden inside that little glowing light are two things about the anglerfish that even people who think they know it have never heard. Here's the first one. The anglerfish cannot make its own light. That glow, the lure it lives and dies by, the entire reason it can survive down here, does not come from the fish. It comes from bacteria. Millions of tiny living bacteria packed into the tip of the lure, and the light is produced by their chemistry, not the fish's at all. The anglerfish grows a special organ at the end of its rod for the single purpose of housing them. A small chamber with a pore opening out to the sea and an inner lining of crystals that gather the glow and aim it forward. The fish gives the bacteria a home and keeps them fed. In return, they shine for it. The strangest part is where they come from. The fish is not born carrying them. A newborn anglerfish has no light, no bacteria, and not even a lure to hold them. It has to swim out into the open ocean and collect the right bacteria from the seawater itself, drawing them in through that tiny pore, gathering its own light out of the dark before it can ever turn that light into a trap. And the partnership has gone so deep that the bacteria are slowly coming apart inside it. Over countless generations sealed within the lure, they have been losing pieces of their own genetic code, dropping the genes they no longer need, until some of them can no longer even glow by themselves out in open water. They have grown so dependent on the fish that they can barely live without it, and the fish cannot live without them. So the anglerfish does not own its light. It borrows it from another living thing and tends it like a lamp it can never switch off and can never quite call its own. And then it hides everything else. Here is the second. A light in the dark is a dangerous thing to carry because light gives away whatever holds it. If the anglerfish let its own glow fall across its body, the prey would see the rod, the jaws, the shape waiting behind the bait, and a bolt. Worse, the bigger hunters of the deep would see the anglerfish lit up like a target and come for it. So the anglerfish solves that the way the deep solves everything, with more darkness. Its skin is not simply black, it is ultra black, one of the darkest materials ever found anywhere in nature. Researchers have measured it, swallowing more than 99% of every ray of light that lands on it. In one small anglerfish, the skin absorbed 99.96%. Almost nothing escapes back out. It manages this with a microscopic trap built into the skin itself. Grains of dark pigment packed in a layer so fine and so precise that light entering it cannot bounce away. Instead, the light scatters sideways into the next grain and the next, ricocheting deeper and deeper until it is absorbed and simply gone. The skin does not reflect light. It eats it. So even while the lure is burning bright, even with that light glowing right in front of its face, the body behind it never appears. The glow seems to float in the open water entirely alone, with nothing visibly attached to it. The prey sees the bait and nothing else. The hunter is a hole cut out of the dark, a predator that makes a light it cannot produce, to draw in prey it cannot see, while erasing its own body so completely that it disappears inside its own glow. And we are not yet at the part that is hardest to believe. Everything so far has described the female, the glowing lure, the gaping jaws, the black and vanishing body, the animal you picture when someone says the word anglerfish. All of it is her. And for a long time, that created a real puzzle because for decades, scientists pulling anglerfish up in their nets found nothing but females. Thousands upon thousands of them and never one male. It was as though the species were only half present in the world. The males had been there all along. They were simply so small that no one was looking in the right place. In many of these species, a male is a minuscule fraction of the female's size. Not a smaller version of her, but a different kind of thing entirely. A little creature a couple of inches long, in some species barely the size of a grain of rice. With no lure, no great jaws, and a body shaped for a single task: finding her. He hatches into the same endless dark with that one job and almost no time to do it. He has oversized eyes and enormous nostrils, and he uses them to comb the black water for the faint glow of a female's lure, or the trace of her scent hanging in the current. Most males never find one. They die alone in the dark, having never met another of their kind. But if he does find her, what follows has almost no equal anywhere in the living world. He bites her, and he does not let go. His mouth seals against her skin. Their tissues knit together. The blood vessels of his body fuse into hers until the two of them share a single bloodstream. And from that point on, he never feeds himself again. She feeds him. His eyes, which existed only to find her, dissolve. His fins shrivel. One by one, his organs break down and disappear until almost nothing is left of the fish he used to be except the part that makes sperm, riding on her side like a smaller animal that was once alive on its own. In one species, that fused male is barely 1/4 of an inch long, joined to a female not even 2 inches from nose to tail. For a while, it was counted among the smallest backboned animals anyone had ever found. And a female does not always carry just one. Several males may reach her and bite and fuse and stay so that she moves through the dark, trailing the dissolved bodies of every suitor who ever found her, each of them still alive, in the only sense that word still means anything. There is one more price, and it is the one that should not be possible. When the male fuses to the female, the two of them grow together for good. Two separate animals, permanently sharing one skin and one supply of blood. By every rule we understand, that should not work. Every animal with a backbone, you included, carries an immune system whose whole job is to recognize foreign flesh and attack it. It is precisely why a transplanted organ can be rejected. Your body does not accept another body grafted into it. For the anglerfish to do this, and for both fish to survive it, something had to be surrendered. When researchers sequenced the genes of these fish, they found it. The anglerfish has switched off the part of the immune system that produces antibodies and rejects foreign tissue, the very machinery that lets your body fight off infection and would normally tear a fused mate apart. It gave up its defense against disease in exchange for the ability to never be alone in the dark. No other backboned animal on Earth is known to have given that up and lived. Add up the whole bargain, the deep has struck with this single fish. To survive at all, it gave up making its own light. To stay hidden, it gave up being seen. And to carry the species forward, the male gives up his eyes, his body, and his independence, while the species itself gives up the immune system every other animal with a spine relies on to stay alive. The abyss asks for everything. The anglerfish simply agreed to the terms. There is one last thing, and it may be the hardest to believe of all. We have almost never seen any of this happen. The anglerfish is the most recognizable face of the deep sea. It is on posters and in movies, sketched from memory by children who have never stood beside an ocean. And yet, nearly everything we know about it comes from dead specimens hauled up in nets, their bodies wrecked by the collapse in pressure on the way to the surface. In nearly 40 years of exploring the deep with robots, one of the world's leading ocean institutes has filmed a living anglerfish only a handful of times. The first clear video of a living black sea devil in its own world was not recorded until the year 2014. And when a single dying one floated up into the daylight off the Canary Islands in 2025, it made headlines around the world because almost no living person had ever watched one move. That is the real anglerfish, not the monster from the posters, but something stranger, and in its own way far more beautiful. A creature assembled piece by piece out of nothing but the rules of the dark. It carries a borrowed light it cannot make, inside a body that erases itself, in an ocean so vast and so empty that finding another of your own kind can cost you everything you are. It did not sink into the deep and become a monster. It is what the deep makes when life is left alone long enough to solve the dark. The ocean keeps its secrets. The anglerfish is only one of them, and we are only now beginning to lower our small lights into the black and look. If you want to keep going down with us, into the places the sun has never once touched, subscribe to Blues Below. There is always something further down.